Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is Jonas Reports for the 5th of November, and you can see that the signaling was correct with the breakdown of magenta under yellow and rising shorts. And that bifurcation that we saw in the DOC was consistent and still has orange caught between cyan and red, which means continuation. So we're not done with this at this particular stage, and this was all set up by this histogram set up on the shakeout where we saw the first move lower, and that corresponded to the crossover, and that once the decay went below zero, we knew that the supports wouldn't hold, and that was the expectation. And in fact, we were above it before, but yeah, we did close below it, and it's continuing to make new lows. We've already hit the 61% line there, so no shock with that. The NQ performing a little bit better, but still doing pretty much the exact same thing. You can see its breakdown is a little bit more extreme. If that DOC gets into the negative 23 range, then we know we've got a probable pullback, kind of what you call a dead cat bounce sort of effect going on. Usually with that, treasuries, nothing particular. Oil's not moving in a direction that's helpful in any way. And of course, the elections and stuff, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens in New York. The euro continuing to face the struggles as it's being clearly recognized that the economic conditions are declining rapidly. And the key producers, Germany, France, don't really count the UK, but they have a separate issue all by themselves. Gold not really responding much because there isn't any real inflation within the configuration, but as we pointed out, Bitcoin and them were headed for weakness, and there's the fill of that positive extreme that I'd marked from before. No surprise with any of that, though I'm sure that crypto bugs are, crying, but that was, tracking pretty well with what the NASDAQ and S&P were doing, just more in an exaggerated form. And again, it was clear from before when we saw the NBI white lead, and that led to the zero move there. We ended up with a little bit of a positive bounce, so you had your short cover move right in there, and that led exactly right up to the 50% where NBI white took over, and then that signals you're headed back to the 0%, and it fought quite a way right down at that near zero, but was unable to sustain anything with the magenta below 25. And we know what happens there, and sure enough, it already did break down. A little bit of a short cover rally post dip to the new lows, and that's where we find ourselves. We're still below where the zero line was, and that's not surprising with that. But yeah, pretty significant ugly shakeout there from a 50K view. Clean and easy, even from an intraday standpoint. You can see we started with that little brief head fake, but then the reality of what was going to happen in the election that sunk in, and it faded, and it continued through the Asian session. We've had a bit of a recovery, but even in the European session here, it's still a bit weaker, and probably going to end up to the south side for the open. Fairly clean from the readings. Anything relevant, I'll put it on our team chat. Have a good one. Trade well.